points.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously the conditions made it, a tough, contested game, but it was probably going to be that way anyway. We were of the strong view that their ladder reflected the quality of their season. The ladder position reflected the quality of their season. It wasn't. It was always going to be a tough game for us. Everyone knows how chock full of talent they are, but they've been playing, a style that's difficult to overcome. So when the conditions were a bit slippery as well, it's sort of means it's going to be a tough battle. And but in the end, the margin was probably a bit more comfortable than the way the game felt. I don't think that was necessarily reflective either, although. I'm not going to say that we defended brilliantly all the time, but we did make it hard for them to score. And with the guys that they have ahead of the ball, especially, that's something that the players in that part of the ground from our side of things should be proud of.
Given the fact that a lot of the game he thought slipped away when they weren't as tough and as clean around the contest, is that what you saw from your side of it?
Not necessarily. I mean, it was slippery, so. The team that's a little bit cleaner, is generally going to get a big advantage there because there's a bit more of a territory battle. And we had a couple of guys that I thought were particularly good in that area, Max Holmes especially, who was outstanding. So, I thought that was part of it. But, to be frank, whenever you don't play as well as you'd like, it's generally because the opposition were a bit cleaner around the footy than you and put your defence under pressure.
It wasn't much of a night for clean footy, obviously, but the defence clearly stood up. You managed to work at the loose man defence a lot of the night. How much of your time was spent trying to work that out? And I know a lot of time in the other box was spent trying to even that up too. Yeah,
it was. Even though it was low scoring and a bit of a grind, it was an interesting tactical battle that they were trying to get certain things done. We were obviously trying to counter it. It's without going into too much detail, I think the way we'd looked at them over the course of the year, and probably longer than the course of this year as well, like you sort of think, whether they play well or not, Anderson is just so important for them, and Miller and Rao, that sort of combination. Humphreys is a young player. It's quite, so it's a formidable combination. You throw in a 209 centimetre experienced ruckman, and that part of the game was really important for us. So. But that's only sort of one part of the tactical battle. You're sort of talking about more outside that initial contest, but the way we're sort of thinking about it in the immediate aftermath is that those guys in and around the contest on really high quality players sort of set it up for us.
Tyson, Stengle, 4 goals. How did you see his performance?
Yeah, you need in conditions like that, guys who are dangerous at ground level. It was never going to be a big contested marking game ahead of the ball, and he's right up there with the best wet weather small forwards that I've seen. He's just so clean and so clever, and like for his size, he's just so strong over the ball as well. We thought, he was a real threat all night.
He's been doing a lot of work defensively. His tackling has been great all year. The goals haven't been the same, level as past years. Was that down to just bad luck? He missed a couple of shots, and were you sort of seeing his form was good leading up to tonight, which is a bit of a break out on the scoreboard at least for him?
I don't spend as much time as you might think around how the individuals are going. I sort of think more about, how collectively, even that part of the ground has been going for us. And no, I think he's had a super year, in terms of what we've been trying to do. And especially as a small forward, sometimes it falls you away, and, the takeaway is you had a great day. Other days you can play almost as well and not hit the scoreboard as well. Look, I think he's been going well. Even the stats around the defensive stuff. I'm not a huge buyer on the stats. Sometimes you get a hand in and they don't give you a tackle, and so you get nothing. But it was much more impressive than the easy wrap-up tackle in and around a stoppage. But I guess over time those things do give you a bit of a guide. But our observation and our direction for Tyson is that he's doing what we're asking him to do, and we've been happy with him.
How's Barney
So, look, we're very, very confident that he'll be fine next week. So he had some lingering kind of tightness post-game. He got a cork late, sort of lateral quad, and sort of had some hamstring sort of tightness awareness. We thought it was going to be okay. We had a shorter break coming off the travel from Perth, so it wasn't until later in the week that it became clear that, you know, he wasn't 100% certain to play. And so he had, I guess you could call it a fitness test a few hours before the game and just didn't feel confident. And in that situation, I think, like, our tolerance for that sort of situation with any player, much less one like Bailey who depends so much on his running, is generally low. So it was a pretty easy decision to pull him out. But then he went and did, I'm told, a 6 or 7K session, and, you know, so it was a situation where he was good enough to train, not good enough to play, which leads us to believe he'll be fine for next week. But who knows?
Tom Stewart, 2 parts, if you don't mind. One, it seemed like he was getting back towards what we know he is, and the second, the big bump with Anderson at the end. Have you got thoughts on both?
Yeah, strong thoughts. He was, thought he, agree. He's had, I don't think he's played more than a few games in a row this year. He's just been a bit interrupted, which has been frustrating for him, but when he has played, he's so important to us, and he's a classic example of a guy who, if he doesn't dominate the game, then he's kind of below average by his standards. And again, I think that's a bit harsh, you know, especially for defenders. It's a bit like the forwards. You know, sometimes it's a game where, you know, you just get in the way and it's a real sort of offensive impact. And other days, you know, the ball's not going to you so much, but you beat your opponent and they say, gee, you didn't get much of the ball. You must have had a quiet game. We just don't see it that way. But we thought he was a bit more, he was very influential on the game tonight. And so the contact with Anderson, the AFL has done a really good job, I think, over the years of sort of shifting the zeitgeist around the way you should approach contests like that. So anyone that understands the modern game would be really impressed with the way he approached that contact. The early decision to come forward, full speed, looking to win the ball first. When you can't win the ball, then, and this is the part the AFL have been really clear with, and I sort of applaud them for this description, now you have a duty of care to the oncoming player. If you're in a position where contact's unavoidable, you need to be very, very careful. So cues like, do everything you can to avoid head contact, don't leave the ground, turn your body to protect yourself. Any kind of malice or intent to hurt the other guy or hit him in the head and you're in big trouble. But if it's a protective action where contact's inevitable and you don't get him in the head, then you've done everything you can. And that's kind of, like, I sort of feel for Noah. Like, everyone loves him, he's a gun player, and it was pretty heavy contact to the ribs, but it was to the body. Like, that is kind of the way the game has evolved. It used to be, if you have your elbow in and you hip and shoulder a guy, it doesn't matter where you get him, you're going to be okay. That's changed. You can't hit them in the head now. And so, Stewie, I thought his duty of care to Noah was as good as it could have been, and he was good enough to hit him in the body.
So if that all pans out exactly as you prescribed there, which, you know, may well, and he has a broken rib, do you think it warrants a suspension or a fine or anything like that?
No, I don't. But if they change the rules and say, if you make body contact with a hip and shoulder and you hurt the body, that's a massive change to the game. Yeah, I don't think we're currently in that stage. And again, like, I don't think you want to see it necessarily. And again, I think that's when I talk about the zeitgeist changing. There used to be this blood sport, like, hurt him if you can. That's changed. If you're trying to hurt a player now, you're likely to be in trouble. But I think it's akin to, again, I don't want to promote it necessarily, but I remember years back, I think it was Natanui went for a mark and kneed Sandilands in the ribs and really hurt him. I think he was pretty seriously injured. But it's kind of like, that's the game. You jump with your knee up and sometimes you're going to hit guys and you don't want to promote it, but it's not against the rules. So I suspect this one's a bit the same. But
How's Shannon, Neil?
so they were worried about his ankle, but it's one of those where he may well have a scan and be pretty good, but there was enough doubt there that it wasn't one that they wanted him to play through. So I don't have the detail yet. I have a bit of an idea, but I don't want to speculate because I think it's one where sometimes a guy gets subbed out and it's really clear, no, he's going to miss a few. This is not that at all. He may well miss a period of time, but he could play next week. So sorry to be so vague, but that's just the feedback that I've got.
Club debut tonight, when did it sort of become clear that Jack Martin would shift from what we know him as a sort of forward midfielder to a defensive midfielder, if that makes sense, sort of half-back midfield tonight? When did that sort of shift occur? Was that a factor in the, I guess, the remaking of his sort of fitness that's been overdone in the last sort of 6 months or so?
Yeah, we thought it was really positive tonight. We thought he was really good for us, especially early. No, when we started thinking about bringing him in, or hopefully getting the opportunity to bring him in, which started a long time ago, we always had in mind that he'd be a bit more back half than forward half.
And was that the new position, was that part of the, I guess, retooling of his fitness base, or was that just
A little bit. They're good questions, but you'd appreciate that I don't really answer those questions in detail. Seriously, I appreciate you asking, and you're directionally right. But again, like you sort of think through, he's had such a difficult run for such a highly talented player, and it required detailed individual planning. And I just don't want to walk you through all that, but yes, all those things were considered. It's a great news story, though, isn't it? Like I think even the teams that would be frustrated that he's not in their team would be happy to see him back, I suspect, because he just, I don't know how much you see of him off field, but he's just such a likeable guy, understands the game so well. Like is he 29 now? Like he deserves a chance to play really high quality footy at the end of his career because he's missed so much.